Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm JP Tong. I'm now at Kechara Forest Retreat, Malaysia, and thank you very much for tuning in to tonight's Thursday Paranormal Tales. Today, as you can see, we have Pastor Niral. We're doing part two of his sharing. So, if you have not watched last week's program, do tune in because there was a lot of exciting experiences that Pastor Niral shared with us. Okay, so before we start, let's wait for everyone else to tune in. But how is everyone? How are you, Pastor Niral?
I'm good, doing good, very
Yeah?
good this week. Yeah.
So what have you been busy with?
Um, Writing mainly.
Okay.
One of the articles I'll talk a little bit about later on.
Yes.
Um,
Have you launched that already?
yes, it's been published. It's live on the blog already.
Okay.
And yeah, just mainly writing work.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what article is this that you've just launched?
I have published an article which was actually about how I got into doing the reasons why I got into practicing what would be termed as black magic.
Oh, wonderful. See, so we have one person here who has dabbled in black magic, and I have a lot of questions for Pastor Niral. Okay, so let's see who's here. Hi, Cochran. Hi, Batku. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hi, Sharon, Jerry, Pastor David, Judy. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. It will be very, very exciting because I I don't know that much about black magic. I have experienced friends who were victims of black magic, but I've not spoken to a person who actually knows how to work with black magic. So you're saying that you've actually worked with black magic, correct?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I guess we shall not. So I guess we shall not irritate you. All right. Ah, we have Mergelin. Hi, Mergelin. Thank you very much for tuning in from Philippines. Bradley, Pastor Internet, Suzanne, Pastor Shin. Thank you. So now, last week you told me about your first experience, and that was when you were in the UK, and there was this kid, this spirit who was, I think you were saying he was a teenager.
Yeah.
Okay, and looking at the clothes, looking at what he was wearing, it must have been quite a few hundred years ago, but he was there, right?
Yeah.
So then after that, subsequently, did you have any other paranormal experiences?
After that, for actually quite a number of years, I didn't really have a paranormal experience like I did with the spirit who I called George.
Okay.
But I kind of became interested in the supernatural and the paranormal. So
Because of George?
partly because of George,
Okay.
yeah, and partly because I just had a curiosity about things.
All right.
And then I started doing kind of the usual things that you hear people doing when they're interested, starting reading tarot cards. And at one point I dabbled in Wicca as well.
What is Wicker? Because I watched a show on Netflix with it's about Wicker. So what's that exactly?
Wicca is actually a practice. I mean, you'd term it magic
Okay.
these days, but Wicca actually stems from kind of an ancient religion of the West. So, like places in Europe and in the UK where I lived, people used to worship certain nature spirits or certain gods or goddesses. And what Wicca is, it is the invocation of these beings to help you with a particular purpose that you have in mind. Traditionally, it was around life situations, for example, the harvest, for example, harmony within the family, or harmony, just general harmony. But then again, you do have the light side, which is more about growth, it is more about transformation, and then you do have the dark side, which is you can use for cursing people or casting what
Oh, really?
we would know as black magic. Yeah.
So you would actually invoke these spirits to help you.
Yeah.
Whether for positive reasons or, as you say, for dark magic.
Correct.
Okay. And where did you learn this?
Oh, I had one of my childhood friends from school. Her mother practiced Wicca, so she lived literally we lived on the same street.
Okay.
So because we went to school together, and there was about 3 or 4 of us on the same street that went to school together, and we were in the same year, we were even in the same class.
All right.
So we'd spend a lot of time with each other. So we kind of knew each other's families and kind of joined in some, like, we would have dinner all the time, and then if there were events or something, we would join the other person's family to celebrate whatever they were celebrating. And kind of that's how I got into it, because like one of my Christian friends, obviously he'd celebrate things like Easter or Christmas, so we would celebrate with him. And then since my family Indian, if we were celebrating something like Diwali, they would all come round and celebrate Diwali with us and have dinner and food. But on the other hand, because this friend's mother was practicing Wicca, when there would be certain rituals in the year that she would do, such as around the solstices, things like that. She would do little rituals, and then she'd have a big dinner for everyone who wanted to come. So we'd go and see what she was doing, and then have dinner and everything. And that's kind of how I got into it.
All right. And did you go all the way with this practice?
Not really. It was just curiosity about what it involved and how to do it.
Yeah.
So I joined here and there, but I didn't really go deep into it that much.
All right. So which was it that you went deep, really deep? Because I heard that he went all the way with a certain practice.
Yes. It was, this was a couple of years later when I was finished university, and I was actually working. And for certain reasons, which you can read on the article that is on the blog, under the 1 minute section.
Which blog is this?
At samrimbichi.com.
Okay.
Yeah. I basically started to learn black magic. So this was...
Wow, okay. What type of black magic was this?
It was actually part of Haitian voodoo.
Haitian voodoo?
Voodoo.
Okay.
Okay, here's going to take a bit of explanation.
All right.
Okay.
Is it like a specific voodoo? Is it why you stress Haitian voodoo as compared to like something else?
I stressed it because when we think of voodoo, right, you automatically think of like dolls and pins and dolls.
Yeah.
And people have a very kind of negative view of what voodoo is. Now, voodoo is actually a religion.
All right.
Okay, it's a syncretized religion which comes from Haiti, basically. So due to things like slavery, and the mixture of the Native American religions and things like that within the area, certain areas within the Caribbean and the Americas developed, and one of them was called voodoo, and that was from Haiti.
Okay.
So in that, again, it is a religion. They believe in God, and
God as in the creator.
The creator.
All right.
And under him are beings like the angels. And because it's a syncretic religion, they actually rely on Catholicism a lot.
Okay.
So it is God, the angels, and the saints, and then under them come a class of spirits. So it is in that belief, it is said that the God, angels, and the saints are too far removed from daily life,
right,
to intercede, to help us with various things. So then practitioners rely on these particular spirits to do things. Again, like it could be like creating harmony or for healing, but it also has a dark side, which is black magic, which includes curses and hexing, things like that.
So they actually teach you both white magic and the dark magic, or?
It depends who you learn from.
Okay.
Most practitioners would only usually do the white magic or the light magic to help others. But then again, you do get other practitioners who do both.
So what did you learn?
I learned both.
Okay.
But yeah, both. I would
So,
say.
all right, and why did you want to learn both, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, in short, it was about control. Control of. At that time, I felt like I didn't have control over my life,
Okay.
but especially how other people affected it. So I wanted some form of control.
Over others.
Yeah, in the sense that they wouldn't affect me negatively.
Okay.
And that got to a certain point where if people had affected me negatively, whether it be physically or emotionally,
Okay.
it got to a point where I wanted to get revenge on them. Hence, that's why I got into the darker side of it.
So you actually used voodoo to curse somebody just to get back at them.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I'm going to be very, very nice to you today. All right. Very, very nice. I'm going to be very nice. Okay. So, wow. So, perhaps, can you share with us what were some of the highlights of your black magic?
Okay. When I was learning, I actually went to live in the United States
Okay.
for
and
about
which part of
8
part
months.
of
Louisiana.
Yes, Louisiana. All right.
So if you know anything about voodoo, you'll know that Louisiana, and especially New Orleans,
Yes.
is very linked with voodoo
Yes.
and various practices like that.
Yes, I have
Yeah.
heard.
So I went there to study, and basically it wasn't in New Orleans. It was actually on a farm, right out in the middle of nowhere, and it was a very, very big farm. And I studied with a woman there who taught me various things on how to do various things.
And how long were you studying with her?
About 8-9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of magic did you learn?
At first, it was just about connecting with various spirits
All right.
and having a relationship with them, so you can communicate with them. They can communicate with you. And
Were they
then,
specific spirits, or would just happen to be any spirit that was nearby?
There would be specific spirits,
Okay.
because certain practitioners would work with certain spirits that they knew, but how they knew them is because someone introduced them these particular spirits. So it usually comes from the person who you study under.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So with these spirits that you connected with,
Mm-hmm.
what did you get them to do for you?
All sorts of things. You can use them from all sorts of things. One example I'll take is tarot reading.
Okay.
Now, I said earlier that I was already reading tarot from a young age.
Okay.
Then, when I started practicing, there's this very unique way of reading tarot cards. Have you ever been for a reading?
Well, during parties, I have friends who would just take out a stash of a deck of
Yeah.
tarot cards,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so when you read the cards, there's various spreads that you use. So you don't put down all of the cards.
Mhm.
You only put down a certain number of the cards, and you read them, and there'll be a specific placement depending
Okay.
on what tradition you're reading from. This one the way we did it was a little bit different. We used 2 decks,
Okay.
and you'd place each and every single card down.
Okay. And these are what type of tarot cards? Angels or?
No, it was a particular. Within tarot cards, there are many, many different types.
Yeah.
You've got angel cards, and then you've got, which technically aren't classed as tarot. They're just another form of cartomancy, which is reading cards.
Okay.
Tarot cards would be something like, I think the one we used was the Morgan Greer deck. It is there's hundreds and thousands of different.
But the
tarot
ones
cards.
that you use is Morgan
Morgan Greer.
Greer. Well,
Yeah.
This is the first time that I'm hearing this. So, all right. So,
So how we did it is we just used to lay them one by one on a table, and as with any tarot card reading, the reader tells you things about what you're going through in life, and then what can happen. But because we had this communication with the spirits, there'd be one particular spirit that would help you with things like reading the future, or telling things about people's lives, things like that.
And it doesn't have to depend on the cards. It's actually the spirit telling you.
Correct. Yeah.
So the card was just what? Just a deflection of something?
It wasn't really a deflection. It was you kind of used it in tandem, because depending on what cards you put down, because each and every card has a standard meaning, but depending on
actually telling you what the cards mean.
Correct.
So the spirit is interpreting the card and telling you what to tell your friend or your client or whomever.
Correct.
So it wasn't you interpreting the cards.
No, it wasn't me interpreting. It was me placing them down, but the being interpreting it was this particular spirit.
And did you hear a voice, or did it come in thoughts?
Oh, I heard a voice.
And how does it sound like?
It was. He had a male voice. It was male, and he was. Okay, let me describe what he looked like.
Okay.
Because when I made this particular connection with this particular spirit, he would appear when he wanted to talk. He would appear physically.
All right.
So where he would appear is right here, like he would just be standing right here, wherever I am. He would just be standing there, and he would literally just talk at me, and I could talk back to him.
And you see him?
Yep, we could see him. We could have a conversation. So this particular man was middle-aged, quite tall. He was Caucasian, and he had he spoke English, but he spoke English with a French twang.
Okay.
So it was a slight French accent.
It was a French spirit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So as I would be reading the cards, he would tell me what to say and what the cards meant in that particular order about the person.
All right.
So then I would relay that to the person. So the first half of when we'd laid down all the cards, which is 2 decks.
Okay.
The first half would be what is happening about the person's past and about the person's what's happening to them now, and then the second half would be about what they would face if the situation was kept the same and they didn't do something about it. This is what would happen.
Okay. And then what happens after that? After the reading?
After the reading, it would depend on the person. If they wanted to do something about it, then the spirit would suggest certain things to do.
Okay.
So certain spells that you could do for that particular person, certain things that you could.
So you actually
give them.
your client how to recite a certain spell, or you do the spell for them?
You do the spell for them then and there after the reading is finished, if they wanted something.
And were the spells in English or Latin or French or?
It would be because the spells also depended on spirits.
So with that Caucasian guy with the French twang.
Yeah, I could ask him to do something. If I was asking him, it would be in English because that's how we communicated.
All right.
If he suggested to communicate another type of spirit, then you would do it in whatever language you knew how to connect with that particular spirit. So because it was Haitian voodoo, you would use Creole, which is Haitian Creole, which is the language of Haiti. Or otherwise, if you already had some sort of connection with that particular spirit, then I would use English because that's how I communicated with those.
Okay, so you actually use English to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And even the spells were in English.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how is that black magic though?
That itself is not black magic.
Okay.
What makes it black magic is the intention behind it.
Okay.
So the intention behind like light magic or black magic is actually if it is to benefit somebody or if it is to harm somebody.
Ah. And did you do curses for others? To harm?
I did.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Upon request.
Upon request.
All right. And what kind of harm were they?
It depends. Mostly the things that I did wasn't that bad. It was just to kind of get them back for something small. So maybe just do something that would give them bad luck for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that.
Bad luck.
But I have seen some black magic which is very, very powerful.
Uh-huh.
So okay, I'll tell you about this one incident where the woman who was teaching me, she also had another student.
Okay.
And this other student was actually in an abusive relationship. So there was one day that we found out that this girl had been beaten up quite badly by her boyfriend.
Okay.
And so this got my teacher extremely angry because, she didn't want anybody hurting, her student.
Yeah.
So she did a spell, and it was a very, it was black magic basically. So I won't go into the details of it, but what happens is she made a box, and it was a wooden box, and inside of that wooden box were various herbs, various items that would be used in black magic, and basically it becomes kind of a portal to that man that was hurting the girl.
Okay.
And so it becomes him, in a sense. A bit like a voodoo doll becomes a person. So whatever you do to the doll happens to that person.
So the box represents that man that they're trying to hurt.
Correct.
All right.
And then she took her while making this box, and then she put it on the altar of a particular spirit who only does black magic. He doesn't do anything else.
Okay.
He just curses and hurts people, basically.
Okay.
And so she put the box on his altar, and then she recited her prayers and everything, her invocations to this particular spirit. Well, the whole while I'm just sitting there watching, because the house that she lived in, which was on the farm, there's literally an altar to a spirit in every corner.
Okay.
And so this was in the front room. So she put the box on the altar, she finished her prayers, and I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden she gets up. And then I'm thinking, what is she going to do?
Yeah.
And then so she stalks off into the kitchen, and I thought maybe she's getting herself a drink or something. I didn't know what was going on. But she comes back with a kitchen knife.
Okay.
And she literally, quite violently, she stabs the box.
Okay.
And the knife goes through the lid into the contents of what was in it. And because it was a wooden box, she had to put quite a lot of force into it.
Okay.
So that was the spell, basically. She was basically telling the spirit, you need to harm this person, because through that violent act.
Okay.
Later we found out that that same day, he got into a car crash.
Oh, wow.
And he broke both his legs and one of his arms.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of like her trying to teach him not to abuse the girlfriend.
Okay. And did he survive it?
He survived. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that was a spell that she did.
Yeah.
Were there any horrible spells that you did? Or you can't say because it will incriminate you.
Read the article.
Oh, it's in the article?
Yeah.
Well, I'm interviewing you. Give us like a snippet of it.
Okay. I was talking earlier about wanting revenge against certain people who had harmed me.
All right.
So, towards the end of my stay with this woman, I asked her to help me do a particular curse.
All right.
And it was very, very strong. So it didn't take like an hour or two. It took 2 full weeks of preparing and then invoking. and it summoned a particular group of spirits. It wasn't even one, it was a particular group. And they're kind of called werewolf spirits.
Okay.
So think of a werewolf, you
Right.
know, huge wolf creature that can tear you apart and kill you. I'm sure you've seen all the werewolf
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
But imagine that, something like that in spirit form.
Okay.
And they go around in groups. So to summon them to do something, it takes quite a long time, which was why it took 2 weeks. So as every day we kind of tried to make contact with this particular group,
Mm-hmm.
you could literally feel their malevolence,
Mm-hmm.
that they were not nice. So it grew and it grew and it grew every single day. And towards the end of the curse, I realized, hang on a minute, I really don't actually want to do this, because I could feel just how heavy and how evil and how, you know, violent they were.
Yeah.
So towards the end of it, I decided I wanted to stop, because I kind of knew what I was doing was wrong, because it just felt so wrong
Mm-hmm.
for me. So then we stopped I told the woman, we're going to stop doing it. So we stopped doing it, and then I had to reverse the ritual, which means to send them back and to make sure that nothing happens to us.
Okay.
So I didn't go through with it in the end.
Oh, that was it?
That was it.
It's the anticlimax. No, was there any spells that you actually went all the way with?
Not from the extreme black magic side, but
Uh-huh.
there were certain spells that we did for healing, and gambling, getting money. So we'd prepare certain pouches
All right.
that a gambler would wear when they went to a casino,
Okay.
and it would help them to win.
And does it work?
Oh yeah, very powerful.
You hear that? What, they win millions or just small money?
The ones that I did, nobody won millions, but they would win quite hefty sums. Yeah.
What, so they actually pay you for that after that? Or?
Oh no, they pay up front. So if they wanted something, we'd tell them how much it would be, and that they'd pay us, and then we'd make it for them.
So this was your career in the UK?
For a short amount of time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why was it?
Oh,
Short amount of time? It wasn't lucrative enough?
It wasn't that it wasn't lucrative, because it is.
It's very lucrative.
It's very lucrative if you can do it, and if people if you have success in doing what people want, then
Uh-huh.
they will send other people to you, and then it can get
Mm-hmm.
extremely lucrative. It's just, it takes quite a lot of time
To invoke the spells.
to invoke the spells, and
Uh-huh.
if they need something, for
Yeah.
example, like these pouches that you would wear for gamblers,
Yeah.
that you could also make pouches for healing or protection, or to attract love, or whatever. So it would take quite a lot of time to make
Okay.
these things. So, and like the tarot readings that I told you about that
Yeah.
we used to do,
Yeah.
because you lay down each and every card, a session would be around 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours.
That's really long time.
And then after that, if they wanted anything done, then it would be more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, according to my notes, you said that you wrote that there's some evil fairies.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about evil fairies?
Okay. So, I remember one of your sessions
Yeah.
when you were talking about you saw this light streaming into the room, right? Was it streaming in? But you saw a little fairy, something
no.
that looked like fairies.
Yeah, I said that when I was sleeping, I was awakened one night, and when I looked up in the ceiling, I saw a lot of insects flying and circling around, and I thought that that something just managed to get into my bedroom, Then when I took a closer look, I noticed that because some of them were flying towards me, like closer towards me, they were just swirling around, and I noticed that they were actually fairies, like pixies.
Mm.
But they didn't do anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, they noticed that I noticed them, and then they just disappeared.
Okay.
So what are these evil spirits? What
So
you're saying they're actually evil?
According to legend,
Okay.
there are fairies are kind of like a species of being.
Yeah.
But as with any non-enlightened being, you can have fairies that are good,
Okay.
or you can have fairies that are bad.
Okay.
So traditionally, when we think of fairies, we think of them as being good and quite small, angelic figures, look very nice, beautiful with wings,
Yeah.
and they flutter about, and
Yeah.
they can help do things like
Yeah.
heal, or they're associated with nature,
Yes.
so they can grow things, all right? But the fairies are said to be divided into two courts, ruled by two queens,
Okay.
a pair of a king and a queen in each court.
Okay.
And so half of them are good, which may have been what you saw, and the other half are bad.
Okay. So what happens?
Again, you can invoke upon the bad ones to do bad things. So if
Okay.
you can invoke upon the good fairies to help grow your garden or grow your vegetables or heal you or whatever, you invoke upon the negative fairies
Okay.
to hurt people, to do stuff.
Have you
things
done
like
that before?
I haven't done that, but the woman that I studied under, she had a particular connection with a couple of negative fairies.
Okay.
But they were so negative. Okay, how she would have maintained communication with spirits is you'd have an altar to them. Like I was
Mhm.
telling you, in a house, there's an altar on every surface, basically.
Yeah.
But these fairies, negative fairies, are so powerful that you can't keep them close to you. So her farmhouse was set on a field, and at the edge of the field there was a forest,
Okay.
and she kind of asked them to live in the forest and not come too, close to the
Too
house.
close. Yeah.
So they would live in the forest. So at certain times, if you looked into the forest, you could feel something inside.
Okay.
But every now and then, she would give them something as an offering to keep them happy. This is going to sound very strange. She said you need to keep them sweet, because if you get on their wrong side or give them something they don't like, they're going to get you, even if you have a connection with them.
Okay. So they feed them sweets.
Yes, but they were very particular in what they wanted,
Okay.
which was chocolate chip cookies
Okay.
covered in vanilla ice cream.
Wow.
So she would prepare a huge bowl of chocolate chip cookies, cover it with ice cream, okay? And then here is the strange bit. They liked Nag Champa incense
In the cookie?
in the cookie. So she would light a whole bunch of incense about this thick,
Uh-huh.
light the whole top, and as it was burning, she would place it inside, and the whole bowl she would offer to the fairies to keep them sweet,
All right.
so that they were happy with you because you gave them something that they liked, and they liked sweet things.
Okay.
There was only one time that she did that when I was living with her. So when she did that, she took the bowl off her front porch, and she walked towards the edge of the forest halfway, and she put the
Mhm.
bowl down. Then she turned around and she walked back. So as I was waiting for her to get back, all of a sudden I saw these two figures emerge from the forest. They were very, very tall,
Mhm.
taller than humans, probably about 7-8 feet tall,
Okay.
but they were very, very skinny,
Mhm.
and they were extremely pale, and
What, you saw their faces?
yeah, I saw their faces, and they had long hair, which is very, it's not like thick hair, it's very straggly, very thin.
Okay.
And usually when we think of fairies, we think of them smiling and happy and everything. These were
Like Tinkerbell.
like Tinkerbell. You think of Tinkerbell,
Yeah.
right? But these were not. These literally had like red eyes, and when they opened their mouths, it was just fangs.
Oh,
it
wow.
wasn't, it wasn't like teeth. It was just like literally fangs, and they were snarling, like a dog snarls. They were making that noise.
It sounds like those, horror movies, right? Like those. I don't know, which movie was this. Was this Harry Potter or one of those? It sounds familiar, like I've watched it in some movie. Oh, I guess somebody must have seen it like you did, and they kind of like drew inspiration from there and made it into movies, right?
I guess
That sounds very familiar. Yeah. Okay.
So they came and they kind of sat down, and then it looked like, obviously they looked like they were eating the cookies and the ice cream.
Okay.
And then they just got up and walked back and went back into the forest.
So what kind of evil can they do that you've experienced or that perhaps you've heard about?
Again, it's things like hurting people physically, like you'd send them to hurt somebody physically. Like before, like kind of the guy getting into the accident.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a one-off thing. You would send a fairy to hound a person. Just continue to hound them.
What? Just to get them physically hurt?
Get
or
physically hurt or emotionally unstable or... Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor David says the dark fairies sound like orcs of Lord of the Rings.
Much more thinner, much more paler.
Okay.
Very thin, very tall, but quite evil. A bit like the orcs, but the orcs in the movies were like, big, huge, bulky things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, interesting. Let me see what else. And you said something about shadow people?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, have you heard about shadow people before?
I don't know what you call them, but can you describe them?
It is literally like a shadow in the shape of a person, and it's a particular type of spirit.
Oh, okay. It's like a dark silhouette of a person. Yes,
yeah.
I have seen them.
Now, actually, Rinpoche had us do Sam Rinpoche had us do an article on shadow people, which is also on samrinpoche.com. They are known to be very, very, again, quite evil.
Really?
Yeah, they can be.
Okay.
There's different types, but the one that's most common, the most common evil type is basically kind of, if you imagine a very slim man wearing a very, very long coat, like a trench coat or something like that, or maybe like even like something like a more formal suit, but one that is very, very long.
Yeah.
And then wearing a hat, like a kind of like a top hat or a cowboy hat or something like that. And you just imagine the silhouette or the shadow of that man or that person, and that is how shadow people appear.
Oh.
And usually shadow people...
But the ones that I've seen look like Spider-Man, but in black. They don't wear no coats or hats, but it's just like Spider-Man.
Yeah. But that's probably not like the most evilest of...
Okay, so those are
the most malevolent.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So there's many experiences of people seeing these particular shadow people with the long coats and the hats, and and then something bad happens, or sometimes they will even attack a person.
So what was your experience?
My experience was a little bit different.
Okay.
When I was studying with this particular woman, she had a friend who was also doing black magic.
Okay.
So this particular friend came over to stay at the house for about 3-4 weeks a month, something along that line. And this particular woman had a very strong relationship with an entire group of shadow people.
Okay.
And you can actually hear them before you see them, because it is said that when shadow people walk, their feet are chained together. It's like they have a chain between between their legs,
All right.
so you can hear the chain dragging on the floor before you see them.
Okay.
So this particular woman, when she came to stay, there was one day where she was sitting on a chair, and this chair was next to a coffee table. It was a round coffee table about this big. So she sat down and she got a bottle of whiskey.
Okay.
But she got 2 glasses, and she put them on the coffee table. Then she got 2 ashtrays, and she put them on the coffee table. And then she got 2 cigars. So she sat down and she poured herself a drink, and she poured one for the person on the other side, but there was nobody there.
Okay.
And then she lit a cigar, and she lit another one. So she was smoking a cigar, drinking whiskey, sat on one chair, and she had poured whiskey and lit a cigar and put it in the ashtray for the person sitting on the other chair. And we were kind of busy doing our thing. I think we were doing something normal, like preparing dinner or something.
Yeah.
And so the woman who was my teacher, she kind of looked at the guest and she realized, oh, she's doing something. So then she quickly brought me out the kitchen, and we stood in the doorway of the dining room, and she just said, just watch. So as I watched, I heard chains dragging along the floor, because it was a very old farmhouse, so the floors were wooden.
Mm-hmm.
So I could hear these heavy chains, multiple, dragging along the floor. And then the footsteps got closer because they were wearing boots. It was like they were wearing boots, so you could hear the chain and you could hear the footsteps. And on the other side of the dining room is the corridor. So we were looking down the corridor, and then you just see 3 or 4 of these shadow people walking down the corridor.
So you actually saw them?
Yeah. And 3 of them remained in the hallway, but one of them came forward and actually sat in the chair that she'd prepared for him. And the whiskey and the cigar was an offering to him.
Yeah.
She proceeded to have a very friendly conversation with him, bursting out into fits of laughter at certain points. But I couldn't hear the spirit talk. I could only see that he was sitting there, and the 3 remaining in the corridor. And for about half an hour, she just had it sounded like she was having a conversation with one of her best friends.
Okay.
She was very animated. She was, talking and jesting, laughing. And then at the end of it, they finished the drink. She finished her drink, and she'd finished her cigar. And then he just kind of got up and walked back to the hallway. The 4 or 5 of them turned around and then just walked further back. And as the further they went, they just kind of disappeared.
So what was that about?
She was literally just having a drink with a friend who just happened to be a shadow person.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so she was, and who was this lady?
This lady was another practitioner of black magic, but she didn't practice. It's going to get complicated. She didn't practice voodoo. Okay, she practiced Santeria, which is another syncretic religion from South America.
So for her to connect with this shadow person, what was the objective of it?
Oh, the way that she works with these shadow people is, if she wants, she's friends with them. So she maintains a friendship with them, so that if she does need them for anything, she can call upon them quite easily, and they'll be very willing to help.
And do harm.
Do harm. Because she has that connection. She has that friendship.
And did you hear of what harm she has done before?
With her, no, I didn't hear. But knowing that that type of spirit, which is shadow people, are purely for harm imagine that she would have done something quite negative, because you can't ask those spirits to do anything like healing or something like that.
Okay. Interesting. Are there any questions so far?
No questions?
No.
Last week there were a lot of questions. This week nobody's asking any
No, I
questions.
think everyone is like bewildered. Can everyone hear us, by the way? Because I think at certain points, at certain moments, it was a bit soft. And on my tablet, it's a bit blurred though, actually. Is it blurred for everyone? Or can you see us clearly? Please let me know, yeah? Okay, JP, the shadowy Spider-Man is called Venom. Really? Okay. Well, yeah, well. Yeah, the Spider-Man that I saw was in my room, and I've seen it quite a few times, because it would actually climb up the wall and onto the ceiling, and you know that it cannot be a shadow from the streets. So and you actually see a like a Spider-Man, like a silhouette, like a shadow of Spider-Man actually climbing up, but it was nothing evil that I sensed. It was just there to get my attention. I mean, I didn't have a drink with him or a cigar, Yeah, I'm very sorry because today's. Oh, it's better now. Did you do something with the camera? I think it may be the internet. Yeah, because some said that it's a bit blur, and some said I have to turn up the volume all the way. Perhaps it's the instability of the internet. See, now it's a little bit blur again. But anyways, as long as you guys can hear us, I guess. Okay, we have Freon has a question here. What happened when a spirit is bound by a practitioner? Will they obey and loyal until the practitioner dies? What happens to the spirit when the practitioner dies?
Okay, that's a good question. Practitioners can bind certain spirits to do things for them.
Okay.
But when they bind them, they need to keep the spirit happy. Because even after you bind a spirit has emotions just like humans do.
Yeah.
So they might be happy at first, but then they might start to get a bit irritated or angry at the person telling them to do things. So you need to keep them happy, which is why practitioners will have altars, because they will bind a particular spirit to a physical object, and which will be placed on an altar.
Okay.
And then every week they will give the particular spirit offerings that they like. This can be in the form of candles, it can be in the form of alcohol, cigarettes. It depends on the type of spirit. Each spirit has its own wants and needs and what they like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
And so in order to keep that spirit working with you, the practitioner would need to do that. And each spirit would have their own altar. So if you're working with a lot of spirits, you would have many altars.
Okay, and you give them different things that they like.
So
so that's how you bind them.
Yeah. So for example, one altar may be, have plants on it. Another altar may have My Little Pony on it. Okay. So it differs.
All right. And will they obey and be loyal until the practitioner dies?
As long as the practitioner keeps them happy, yes.
All right. And what happens to the spirit when the practitioner dies?
Okay. Here, there's a couple of things.
Okay.
One is if the particular magic that the practitioner has used is strong enough, that spirit will still be bound to a particular physical object. So they will be around that physical object, which means if anybody inherits that object, the spirit will follow that object to the new person. If they are not bound that strongly, or if they have the ability to break that bond, then they can just go about doing whatever they want to do.
Okay.
also what happens is if that particular practitioner had students, this or brothers or sisters that trained with them,
Okay.
the spirit would automatically gravitate towards one of those people, be it their student or be it their colleagues or friends who are practicing something. So
Okay.
it would kind of pass on to the next generation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I hope that answers your question, Freon.
Oh, there is one more. There's
Yeah.
one more, which is more serious, which is if you have been using very negative spirits,
Okay.
very, very heavy negative spirits, when the practitioner dies, that spirit will actually come for the practitioner and will stop them from dying properly.
Okay.
So when they don't die properly, they themselves become a spirit.
The practitioner becomes a spirit
Yeah.
because they do not. What do you mean by not dying properly? Can you
Okay,
explain?
depending on what tradition you're following,
Yeah.
when you die, your soul or your essence is supposed to leave your body and then go somewhere, whether it be heaven
Yeah.
or maybe even hell, or return to the divine energy or whatever belief you have. But certain negative spirits, they will energetically can stop that process from happening. So for example, when you leave your body, when you've passed away, instead of going wherever you need to go, like heaven or back to the creator or whatever, they can trap you and you become a spirit yourself. So either two things can happen. You become a spirit and that other spirit can torture you because you use them,
Okay.
or you become a spirit similar to the one that's stopping you from going somewhere else.
Okay.
So for example, if it's a shadow person, for example,
Yeah.
and they come for you at the point of death, then you yourself become a shadow person.
Wow. That's why it's very dangerous to meddle,
Right.
in all these black magic and spirits and all that, right? Because you never know, exactly what you say. Because, well, I learned much later that for those who invoke in spirits or what they or like ascended masters, in this new age, with these new age practitioners, that they tend to invoke in this so-called holy masters or ascended masters. And what happens is that a lot of times these ascended masters are actually spirits, very powerful spirits that are, in disguise of a holy being. And for many, many, many years, for decades perhaps, they would actually teach the practitioner how to heal, how to help people, and so on and so forth. But when the time is ripe, or when the negative karma opens up for the practitioner, what happens is that these holy beings, these supposed ascended masters or holy beings, will actually show up in their real form, and that's where all hell breaks loose, and that's where they get the practitioner. And I've heard that story many, many times. And I think in one of my episodes, I just spoke about it, because I know of this very famous energy healer who got herself in trouble, and she was doing this for decades, and because she was being attacked by the ascended master who has been guiding her for decades, healing masses all over the world, and then he because she was burned out after a while, and she kind of took a back seat. I don't know what happened, but the holy being became just two red eyes and a dark and like as though he wanted her dead. It was that violent. And she had an audience with Tenra Maje, and I happened to be, I was invited to join in the audience. So it was really scary, because she was just stumped, but in fear, and because she was somebody worldwide as a very famous energy healer. So she had nobody else to turn to but Tenryumichi. So Tenryumichi actually helped her to purify the karma for the being to hurt her. And so that's why it's always advisable not to meddle in these things. Bradley asks, what consequences does a practitioner have for the future lives after practicing black magic?
What consequences?
Yeah, what consequences does the practitioner have for their future lives after practicing black magic?
Okay, on everyday... Okay, there's a couple of levels to this. The first is you create a connection with the spirits. So say if you create a connection with 20 spirits, when you pass away and if you are reborn, whatever realm you were reborn in, again, that connection exists. The connection is there.
Yeah.
But that connection can manifest in different ways. One of the ways it can manifest is that you're now, in your new life, you're afflicted by spirit harm by the spirit who in your previous life you worked with.
Okay. So it will follow you then, basically.
Yes,
it will follow you and the spirit will harm you.
Correct.
Right? So, or may not. Or may not. But the chances are very high.
Correct.
Because, well, it's all karma. Because even if it's not spirits or black magic, if you do a lot of harm, right? So if you do a lot of harm, then your karma will come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but of course, if you do black magic, is more harm, I guess, then you will kind of, suffer in your future lives.
Yes, but actually one point that I'd like to make, right, is for us, is that would seem like a very big thing.
Yeah.
That, I work with a spirit in this life, and then in my next life, that spirit's going to get me back. And because it is supernatural, according to how we think about it, we kind of get scared about it, and then you want to stop doing what you're doing, as was my case. But actually, from a Buddhist perspective, anybody that we harm, whether it is a spirit, whether it is another person, whether it is an animal, whether it is any being, you have a connection with that now, with that being now, a karmic connection. Yeah. And you're going to have to suffer from that negative karmic connection in a future lifetime. So it seems scary with us when we're talking about spirits. But if you actually contemplate it, it's a lot more scary than that, because it actually covers everybody that we interact with.
Of course.
So when you think about it in that way, spirits and this happening becomes less scary, but the scale of it actually becomes bigger, because you understand just how important and vital it is to actually not engage in harmful actions towards anybody. Not just spirits.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. That was from Bradley. Okay, Caroline asks, will the spirits follow one's life after life?
Yes. You remember earlier I was talking about this particular spirit that helped me do the tarot reading?
Yeah.
This is my friend who is still following me. Okay. According to Rinpoche, this particular spirit has been following me lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, because this spirit is very, very old.
Okay.
It is very, very... It's been around for, Rinpoche said, thousands and thousands of years. And in my last couple of lifetimes, they've been... According to Rinpoche, my lifetimes have been quite short, but he's followed me in every single lifetime.
Oh, wow. And why is that?
Because there is a karmic connection. Rinpoche said that most likely before he was a spirit, we were actually brothers in a previous lifetime. Really? And there were certain issues that arose in that lifetime that created such animosity between us and such negativity between us that the connection has carried over. He became a spirit, and then I was reborn in I don't know what realm. But ever since then, he's been following me, and it's kind of a love-hate relationship, because the connection is both positive and negative. It's a positive thing because he was my brother.
Yeah.
And we lived together, we grew up together, but it was negative because of what we made it into.
Okay.
In that particular lifetime.
So it's now, and it's followed you to this life?
It's followed me to this life. So that's why it was very easy for me to make a very strong connection with him.
Okay.
And
is he still around?
I've always saw him physically. So remember I told you when he would stand right in front of me. When he would stand here and I would see him, I would talk to him, I would converse with him.
Oh, that's your brother?
Yeah.
The Caucasian guy?
Yeah.
With a French twang?
With the French twang.
So that's your brother?
That's how he appears to me. Okay.
But he's no longer around.
He's still around. But he's
very
about
far away.
5 kilometers that way.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing the practice of Sing Dongma, and also Dode Shugden in trance helped. But Rinpoche advised me that the practice, he wouldn't give me a practice that would get rid of him. Because if Rinpoche did something to get rid of him, there is still karma involved.
Okay.
And because that karmic connection, now it's not just about him being my brother. Now it's about him being my brother in the first life, but then subsequent lifetimes, whatever karma we've accumulated together is built up.
Okay.
So Rinpoche said, you should cut the karma completely, which means to purify it.
Okay.
So Rinpoche and even DS in trance said that they wouldn't get rid of the spirit for me, but that through doing virtuous things and through doing Dharma practice and dedicating it to him, I can purify the negative karma between us.
All right.
And cut the negative karma completely.
Okay.
Which is why he is still here, but very, 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 very far away.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, I think that's time's up. Thank you very much. That was very, very interesting. And I think you have a lot more to tell, right? Based on my notes.
Yes.
We have a lot more to tell. Okay, so great. So once again, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's session with Pastor Niral. And if you do have friends who actually do like paranormal tales, do tell them about it, and then tune in with us every Thursday, 10 p.m. Malaysian time. All right, so have a great week, and thank you very much once again, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.